Lesson 13, Spiritual Connection. Part 1, Achieving Unity. Welcome to the exploration of spiritual connection, where we dive into the profound concept of achieving unity. In this transformative journey, we will unravel the interconnectedness that binds us to ourselves and the vast universe around us. The quote for the lesson would be, "In this vessel of your body, you yourself are the world tree, deep roots in the earth, and a crown of stars. Your essence bridges dimensions." By Elizabeth Hiller. So what I get from this is basically an expression of how we are all indeed interconnected with each and every one of us, with every essence, with every tree, with every raindrop, with every grain of sand, with all the water that surrounds us, right? Everything in its true essence. It's a united interconnectedness that webs all that is together. Only living through the expression of an illusion of separation, as it is all just one consciousness, experiencing itself through infinite potentials of itself, through the conscious awareness that gives each and every experience. So whether we are a tree, a human being, an ant, water, whatever it might be, as everything that is has the essence of God, the higher self, the universe, energy, right? And before becoming all that we experience in this world, it all started with a thought first. The thought that comes from the mind, to envision and imagine and think of that which we want to pursue and create, to then be planted within the soil of our emotions, our emotional state that allows us to become the embodiment of that experience through the essence that is our emotions, as emotions are energy in the motion of that creation within the soil that cultivates and nurtures what holds it all together. Similar to a wound, right? It is to think it and to have an intention and a desire to create it while planting the seed in the fertile soil that will allow it to ferment and be cultivated and nurtured, so that in doing so, the blossoming takes action. Action being the actual manifestation of the thought that was implanted within the soil of the emotional state that allows us to become one with that action. Similar to a trinity that most of us are familiar as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. First, the Father has to think it, right? It has to be thought out, it has to be envisioned, it has to be imagined, as to have somewhat of a curiosity of what that would be like to have or experience or to be that which we think it, for that which we think we are, that which we think we become. And in doing so and placing that intention, we plant the seed of such a desire, a thought, an imagination into the soil of the feeling, the sensations, the emotions that will surface in the creation of that thought, of that mental capacity to think it before it become it. And this is how manifestation pretty much works. But before thinking in the vastness of manifestation, we have to realize that we ourselves are a manifestation of the divine source that created us to be that which it imagined it to be in all possibilities of ourselves, within the soil that holds the trees, and the trees that hold the leaves, and the leaves and the tree that hold the home for the squirrels, and that experience the fall of the rain and the wind that blows, while also being the wind that blows, floating through all that is, through the hair strands of our head, as well as the seal of a boat, right? It is all a beautiful orchestrated interconnectedness that cannot be broken, only transformed and expanded into something more vast, into something more different, into something that gives it another possibility of itself once it knows more of itself to be so, right? Because in order for us to even imagine something else, we have to go through the courses of the current experience of life, so that in that experience we expand and think more outside of that box, so that in stepping outside of the box into the unknown, we step more into the infinite possibilities of all that we can create, as we are just a creation within another creation within another creation, as infinite possibilities of itself through the thought of just thinking it before it can become it, as it is being planted like the seed within the soil. That with intention, with the emotional state of our beingness, to add the emphasis of those emotions as to how will we feel when experiencing such thing. What sensations are we feeling? What movements are we having? What scents are we smelling? What is it that we are truly envisioning or seeing or experiencing? And for that to truly be in the knowing of that, we need the emotional state, the awareness of that full spectrum of emotional states, so that in that we become the action of that expression of self, the essence that bridges the totality of all dimensions in that trinity of creation. So when we think about that spiritual connection that we have with all that is, and we define it, we think of it in a sense that spiritual connection is a profound relationship with something greater than oneself, leading to a sense of transcendence, inner peace, intuition, compassion, gratitude, and connection to nature. It involves recognizing interconnectedness and finding meaning in life beyond the physical realm. Overall, spiritual connection is a deeply personal and subjective experience that can manifest in various ways for different individuals. It involves cultivating a sense of awareness, openness, and reverence for the mysteries of existence, ultimately leading to a deeper understanding of oneself and one's place in the universe. Because indeed we all have a purpose and we all have a place. Because through the eyes of the beholder, we all experience a different point of view, a different perception of our experience based on the totality that coursed our experience, right? Because it is we, in the expression of the I, that gives it the meaning. And where does the meaning of what we give it comes from? It comes from our own upbringing, our experience, our culture, our teachings, our religion, our traumas, our pain, our fears, our insecurities. All of this plays a course in how we see the world. So by giving it the infinite possibilities of different point of views based on different definitions and meanings, we gain a vast point of view of the self in the totality or in the unity of the one mind consciousness that is indeed the divine source creator of the all that is. The all that is, that gives the power within each of us the spark to animate itself through that expression. So because we are only in level 1 of this course, and there's so much layers to the complexity of the nature that we are existing within and the mysteries of all that we are, I'll leave it at that in that form of expression until we get more familiar with the practice of how to reach the levels within ourselves, so that in that journey of self-discovery and self-realization, we unveil layers of ourselves as we unlearn the old paradigm and introduce the truth of who we truly are as we endeavor into higher realms of that within the course of self-mastery cultivation. Now, as we reach the ending of the course, and this being the last lesson, just like every other lesson, this will be separated into 3 parts. The first part being achieving unity, where we explore the concept of unity with self and the universe, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. Number 2 being fulfilling your purpose, where we dive into the fulfillment of our life's purpose and how it aligns with our self-mastery journey. And the third part being mastering self-awareness, where we advance our self-awareness techniques to gain deeper insight into our inner world. Now, as we are in the first part of achieving unity, we want to bring more clarity into what that is. Achieving unity enhances spiritual connection by fostering a profound sense of interconnectedness, compassion, and harmony with all beings and the universe. It promotes collective consciousness and personal growth, leading to a deeper experience of spiritual fulfillment and meaning. Now, what would be the key points for achieving unity? The first we have is understanding unity. Begin by contemplating the essence of unity. Explore how every living being, every element, and every thought form a part of the intricate tapestry of existence, which brings more clarity into the explanation that I gave as a metaphoric example, that everything always starts within the intention, in the intention of to think it, at least in this dimension of existence, of course, within this paradigm that allows us the experience of this reality, which alters and constructs a limited to some degree while still holding the key to be infinite in its infinite possibilities of creation. But here, it's not necessarily to understand the complex vastness of all creation, but to get in tune with the essence that we do indeed get to experience. All of the elements that surround us, and through the thoughts that occur when we are experiencing these things, and the embodiment of the experience as we allow ourselves to fully feel the emotional states that resurface through the full spectrum of emotions that allow us the contrast of the polarities, so that we know what one meaning truly defines as we get the full spectrum of it. What do I mean by this? Well, when we attempt or allow ourselves to understand what exactly unity is and how everything is actually indeed connected, we have to first go through the degrees of the illusion that allows us the illusion of separation. Just like a coin that has two sides to itself. And if you remove one side to the coin in itself loses its entirety of value. Why? Because what gives the coin the value is the imprint of what is the signature of the value, right? What was constructed and lauded as what gives the coin that value. And in our experience of life, what allows us to truly embrace and experience the value and the gift that life truly defines, we have to have that polarity to know the difference, because we would not know what light is unless we experience darkness. We will not know what pain is unless we experience the abundance of health and joy. We would not know what happiness is unless we have experienced sadness. So in order for us to know the positive, we have to know the element of negative. Because it is through that experience of duality where we actually get to see what is the meaning of it in the unison of itself. Because have you ever been in any aspect of life in the position where you have always experienced, let's say, the good life? So you don't even know what it is to be poor or to not have food on the table, or to even experience not having running water in your house, right? Most of us, fortunately, have been fortunate enough to know that things could always be worse, and that we are very fortunate to have running water in our home, to have a roof over our head, to have the ability most times, right, even in our worst condition, to be able to eat something, even if you are a beggar and homeless in the street. You have the willpower to ask for help, and more than likely you will receive it, whether through people giving you food or money, or going to a shelter and asking for help, or allowing the government to assist you in some way or some form. We all hold this willpower to find a way to make it happen. And even in our worst, we are still fortunate to know and have the condition that we are still alive, living through the expression of life. And it is after we have experienced such degrees of misfortune, of tragedy, of sadness, of dis-ease, of stress, of all these things, that when we feel the absence of it, as we step into the glory, into the happiness, into the health, into the abundance where we truly know what it is to be alive, where we truly know what it is to be fortunate, where we truly know what it is to be in the gratitude of that duality, because now we are not numb to being fortunate all the time. Because here we won't even know the difference. We won't even know of that possibility to be. Right? And sometimes when we are so in the good of things, right, we lose touch of all that life is. We might grow up spoiled or taking things for granted or not even knowing the value of something because it's always been there. And sometimes it takes the course of life to humble us, to bring us down to earth, to show us these levels of possibilities, so that when we step into what is truth, in the essence of self, in the abundance of the infinite possibilities of all that we truly are, we realize the magnitude of how to truly embrace that gift, right? By living through the illusion of the restriction that this world, this life, this construct allows us to experience. To feel oppressed when we are truly infinitely liberated. To feel restricted when we are truly and divinely infinite and expanded through the vastness of all potential. So, before I ramble anymore about more in depth of this, I'm very passionate about this because I've learned a lot through my own journey, through my own course of life. And I learned to be grateful through it all because it has taught me so much. And this is what I wish to share and teach, with the intention of providing that same sight, that same perspective, that same change of perception of life. Because here I feel that we find true liberation of the pain and the suffering that we may have lived prior to it. And then we realize that it all had reason and it all had purpose. And when we come into that realization, all we can really do is sit back and laugh at how serious we took life, because we have reached the pivot moment to remember who we truly are. Bringing us into the next key point of achieving unity, which is connecting with self. Reflect on your relationship with yourself. How aligned are you with your true self? Acknowledging the aspects that contribute to your sense of unity and areas where disconnection may exist. So this can go many ways in my explanation, but I'm going to attempt to keep it simple. So when we think about the all that is, that created the thought, that created us in its image, and we attempt to connect to the self, while at the same time simultaneously realizing that the self is everyone and everything around us, in our interconnectedness of self, through the image of self, through the imagination to think out the self and play itself out, through the illusion of separation. And I hope I'm not losing you in this complex explanation, but I'm just allowing it to surface out and channel out of me. Now, when we think like this, and we think that indeed we are all one, experiencing ourselves through the expression of self through another, we no longer feel the need to judge or discriminate or say that one person is wrong and the other one is right, and I'm right and you're wrong, and all these things. It's more of a sense of observing the self through the expression of another, observing myself through the experience of another, the end result that I might too could end up to be if I might too decide to perceive life in that way. And that is considered perceiving life from a higher perspective, from the interconnectedness that we are all one, from the knowing that we are one, as opposed to believing that it's someone else's fault, they are wrong, they are white, they are black, all these divided perspectives, right? Which never really serves us long term. Short term, it serves us. But for how long is the question. And I think we have reached the level on a collective level that expression or that paradigm will no longer serve the upcoming elevation of consciousness, as we are living or experiencing our life through or within the habitat of Mother Earth. And Mother Earth is evolving herself, evolving and gaining wisdom through the experience of us. And as that happens, there is an elevation of consciousness, right? And as there is an elevation of consciousness, the way that we see things changes. The way that we feel about things changes. We start to be more intuitive and more understanding of things. And once that happens, that discrimination of one another starts to dissipate, because to do unto others, we quickly start to realize that we are only doing unto ourselves. And once we start to realize the universal laws and how everything is only a mirror of itself, therefore what we put out, we only receive back, we start to recalibrate our actions and our thoughts and our motives and our intentions, because we start seeing that we're the only ones losing when we do bad, and we're the only ones winning when we do good. Because as I do to another, I'm only doing to myself. So we start to choose better, because now we know better. The same way as a child starts to articulate themselves differently once they learn more words and the meanings behind the words. Therefore, they get wiser and they get smarter and become more independent, right? No longer needing the help and the guidance from their teachers and their parents and their guardians, because they're starting to figure it out on their own, and they no longer perceive the world the way they did before. Therefore, the tantrums might fade away, because now they're maturing as young adults. And that doesn't happen with everyone, of course. We have adults' bodies holding still children in mentality and consciousness. So this is not for everyone. But I digress into another key point of achieving unity, which is interconnectedness with the universe. Expand your awareness to a broader cosmos, recognizing the thread that connects you to the universe, acknowledging that your existence is part of a greater whole, which is kind of the example that I was providing in the previous key point, that we are all one, experiencing itself as separations of self, so that we can see ourselves through different point of views, through the different expressions of self, through the scenarios that molded that expression, being influenced by our environment, our upbringing, and so on. So we are experiencing through the observation of our ego, right? Because the ego is actually what creates the mental construct of our existence as individual expressions of self. But you remove the ego, which we don't want to ever remove and eliminate the ego, because the ego is what anchors us in the expression and the experience of life. What we want to do is have everything in balance, have a equal dance between the ego and the higher self, so that it can fully embrace and experience life and all it has to offer, while still being in the knowing as the conscious observer of self, as it gets to know more of the self through the experience of the self through another, that everything is all interconnected, as within so without, as the law of correspondence describes. So we're not going to get into those elements of the self-mastery at level 1, but it is a highlight as to what is to come. Bringing us into the following key points. Oneness in diversity. Embrace the beauty of diversity within unity. Explore how individuality and collective unity can coexist, creating a harmonious balance in the tapestry of life, which is what I was explaining. Seeing how we, in our unique expression of our essence, can experience each other through the separation of self, while simultaneously being in the knowing that we are indeed all one, right? Experiencing itself through the expression of self, which then becomes a beautiful dance of all creation. Now, when it comes to the practices of achieving unity, we introduce practices that foster unity both within yourself and in your connection with the universe. This may include meditation, mindfulness, or rituals like prayer that resonate with your spiritual journey. Now, what are the benefits of achieving this unity? For one, we gain this inner harmony. As we achieve unity, it brings inner harmony, aligning our thoughts, emotions, and actions with our authentic self. A second benefit would be a sense of purpose. Connection with the universe provides a profound sense of purpose as you realize your role in the grand symphony of life. The third benefit would be empathy and compassion. Unity fosters empathy and compassion as it allows you to see the interconnectedness of all beings and understand their experience. The fourth benefit would be clarity and peace. The purpose of unity often leads to clarity of mind and inner peace, freeing you from the distractions of a fragmented existence. Bringing us into the conclusion of part 1. As you contemplate and embrace the concept of achieving unity, may you discover the profound benefits it brings to your life, from inner harmony to a deeper sense of purpose. Unity serves as a guiding force on your spiritual journey.